When I arrived at the gas station for my first shift, the place looked quite normal. It was one of those standalone branded gas stations, named a generic Star Gasoline, and clearly family owned. It was a bit run down but serviceable, and only one car was currently pumping gas. The gas tanks were lit by a single yellow light that hung in the center, casting shadows in all four directions, like a compass dial. The actual convenience store part of the gas station was typical. The glass windows were plastered with sun-bleached advertisements for cigarettes, energy drinks, and a 2 hot dogs for 99 cents deal. The tinkle of the bell chimed when I pushed open the convenience store door, and I was met with the smell of slightly old hot dogs that had been sitting under a heat lamp all day. Looking over, I saw that there was no one at the counter, but a lady who looked like she was in her 50s waved at me from the back of the store as she was sweeping up. The store was a little larger than a typical gas station convenience store. The interior is what you would expect, except for one thing. There was a clock and an old TV screen lined up on each side of the room, showing security camera footage of the gas pumps. It seemed unnecessary. And in addition, the owners didn't aim the security cameras very well, and it was mostly casting footage of the ground in between the gas pumps and the store instead of centering the gas pumps in the middle. "Oh, hello, you must be Alex." I was taken out of my thoughts and I looked forward. "I know that my husband originally interviewed you. We've been trying to find a person to do this night shift for months, and I dare say I'm getting too old to stay up that late. But you're young, so you'll be fine." She wiped her hands on her pants before reaching out her hand to shake mine. "I'm Anne. Nice to meet you. You can go ahead and set your things behind the counter, and I'll show you around real quick. I know you've already worked at a gas station before, so I won't bore you. We just needed someone who was good at following directions." The little lady moved quickly for someone her size. She seemed eager to get me started so that she could finally go home and enjoy a normal sleep schedule. "The cleaning supplies are back here in this closet. Mops and brooms are hung on the left. Bathroom is on the right. It's just a single toilet room." I peeked inside. The bathroom was just about what I expected a gas station bathroom to look like. The walls were all scratched up from druggies probably sketching their initials all over it, and the tiles had a nasty brown stain from years of use. But it smelled clean at least, like bleach. And there was hand soap, which wasn't always a guarantee whenever I used a gas station bathroom. I'll give you a list later with the cleaning tasks and when to do it, since you'll be closing up. Finally, she led me back to the front, showed me how to use the cash register and the debit card machine, and we were just about done. She dug into her pocket and pulled out a pair of keys. "These are the keys to lock up. One for the front and one for the back door. Near your chair at the register, there is a yellow list of the cleaning tasks. The most important one is the red sheet." She pointed at the bright red paper sitting next to the register. "Read that and learn it by heart, and you'll have no problems." "Thanks, I'll take a read." "Did you bring a good watch like I told you to?" "Yes, I did. Though it looks like you have so many clocks in here, I feel like I don't really need this watch to tell the time." "Oh no, you'll definitely need it. Trust me. You've got another, 15 minutes before your shift starts. Go sit down and start on some of those tasks, and keep it with you for a few days. You'll know it by heart soon enough. I don't need it anymore. I learned quick." She picked up her bags from behind the counter and left. There were no customers anymore, and it was relatively quiet. It was almost 10 p.m. and by now, there weren't even any cars passing by on the road outside in this small town. I gazed outside again at the lone gas station light, flickering occasionally in the distance. The light illuminated long, stretching shadows of the gas pumps. All four shadows were cast in the same direction towards the convenience store, almost like they were crawling towards the building in parallel. I picked up the 2 instruction sheets. Both were laminated and printed on steady cardstock and a little grimy from use, probably because many employees had to refer to them often. The yellow sheet didn't seem all that interesting. Just a lot of mundane tasks like mopping up and taking out the trash at the end of the night. The red sheet, however, had blocks of text on it. Welcome to Star Gas Station. This is your night shift employee manual. Please follow all instructions with great care. It is important that you are punctual and uphold the quality of service that our customers expect, even during the late night hours. We strive for peace and harmony with our neighbors, night and day. 1. A clean store with busy employees is a happy and occupied store. 2. Spend most of your time being active in the lit part of the store, except when otherwise necessary. Half of the lights are always off. 3. Before 10 p.m., turn off half of the store lights. It does not matter which half of the store that you keep lit, but whatever you choose, keep it for the rest of the night. If you turn off all the lights, it makes the store look closed. You would need the unlit part of the store later. 4. If you need to use the bathroom, keep the door cracked so that you can keep an eye on the security footage on the TV monitors. 5. Throughout the night, you might notice puddles of water and heavy dust on the floor and table surfaces in various places. Try to clean them up when you can, using the provided mops and dusters. Puddles and dust make the store look abandoned and unkept and will attract attention. A clean store is a happy, occupied store. We recommend occasionally patrolling the store to look for water or dust that you might miss. Remember to check the employee's break room. 6. Around 12 a.m. or earlier, prepare the mop bucket with water and soap. At 12:05, go to the back of the store to the refrigerated drinks aisle and mop the aisle continuously until 12:25. Do not leave this aisle or stop mopping until the specified time for any reason. You may feel something watching you and a strong desire to leave the aisle and hide. Do not listen to this urge. Act normal and do not show signs of fear. You may go back and forth down the aisle until time is up. Management recommends keeping your head down, keeping an eye on your watch, and wearing some headphones with music to help you block out sound. The quality of your mopping does not matter, but it is important that you appear busy at work. 7. On the walls next to the cash register is a camera feed of the backlot that is different from the other camera feeds. You do not need to check this feed too frequently, only once every 30 minutes at the top and bottom of the hour. At any time of the night, if you see a shadowy figure standing in front of the camera feed and staring directly at you into the camera, calmly and slowly duck down under the register so that you are no longer able to see this particular monitor screen. We call him Fred. Wait 5 minutes and use the provided compact mirror, it's underneath the cash register, to indirectly check if Fred is still there. If he's still there, continue checking every 5 minutes until he leaves. 8. And this one only happens if you were not acting busy enough or if the store is dirty. You may see Fred standing directly looking at you at the front of the convenience store. If so, stop what you are doing and do not acknowledge his presence, but calmly crouch behind any of the aisles in the unlit section and make noise by reorganizing and moving snack bags and drinks around. Do not stand up again. You want him to hear you, not see you. He will not want to bother you if you seem busy. You can peek through the shelves to see if he is still there, but be careful. 9. Finally, these are the most important rules. We usually only have one local neighbor, Fred, visit every night. But on a very rare, unlucky occasion, there are more of them. Unfortunately, only Fred is relatively harmless as long as you follow the rules. The other foreign visitors are not. There are multiple TV monitors on the walls of the store. If at any time in the parking lot you see the 4 shadows of the gas pump all face towards you in the same direction, this is a bad omen. It means that out-of-town visitors are nearby, and it is best to vacate. 10. You will have a few minutes. Drop what you are doing, run to the employee back room, and find a large light switch panel on the back wall. Turn off every switch to turn off all electricity to the store. It'll make this store look closed and the visitors may leave to look for a different establishment. This angers Fred, who is a local, but helps discourage out-of-town visitors from coming in. Go into the storage room on the right, lock the door and deadbolt it. Put your phone on silent and send Anne a text. Do not try to leave. Multiple visitors may enter the store. Fred will also get inside now that the store seems closed, but he should not find you if you remain still. You can take a nap for the rest of the night, as long as you do not snore. If all goes well, we will collect you in the morning and pay you triple your wages for the trouble. Ice ran through my fingers as I reread one line that stood out. In a panic, I looked up at the closest monitor, and the shadows were so elongated that they were basically leaking into the store. But there were no shadowy figures inside. Yet. I was starting to shake. No way that this list is real. But I clearly remember the shadows being in a compass formation when I first arrived. The sun was already down, and unless that singular light fixture could somehow move positions, there's no way to explain the shadows suddenly changing to stand parallel to one another. Blood was draining from my face and I looked up at the clock. It had taken me a while to read through the list, but maybe I had a minute left. Break room, back wall, panel, storage room, lock it and deadbolt. Call Anne, and then stay silent. I sprinted from behind the counter and I ran to the back room. I quickly located the light panel and smashed my hands down on all the switches and blacked out the store. My hand fumbled for my phone flashlight while I grasped the walls to find the storage room door and I pulled myself in. I couldn't see a thing except for the narrow beam of my phone flashlight, but I managed to lock and deadbolt the door with my jittery fingers, and then located boxes that I could hide behind. My heart was pounding. I wasn't sure if all of this was a joke, but it couldn't hurt to call Anne and ask her what in the world was going on. I dialed her number, and I heard the dial tone of the phone call trying to get through. I hope she picks up. It seemed to take forever. Hello? I couldn't believe she actually picked up. I immediately asked her if that red instruction sheet was real. In a slurry of panicked words, I also explained the shadows that all began facing the same direction towards the store, and demanded to know if I was in actual danger. Oh, sorry that I didn't tell you, honey. That last one almost never happens. It's only happened a couple of times in the past 2 years. You just got really unlucky. It seems like you did almost everything right, though. I breathed a sigh of relief. Just stay inside and stay quiet. We'll get you in the morning, sweetie. I was still in a panic, but this reassurance relaxed me enough to slump down the wall and get ready to settle in for the night. However, just as I was about to put the phone down, a thought bubbled up in my head. Did she say that I did almost everything right? I felt something next to me. The voice was now no longer coming from my cell phone, but right next to my ear. You're supposed to text her. That wasn't me on the phone. I felt my face drain white. I asked her how it was possible. That phone call I made while being in the storage room sounded so real. I even heard a dial tone. I know it sounds crazy, hon. Don't look at me like that. Sit down. Anne sat me down and I spilled a slew of questions at her, but she didn't answer everything. According to her, shadowy entities like Fred can mimic voices and sounds that they've heard. She said that's why one of the rules about mopping the drinks aisle at 12:05 recommended music with headphones. And when she's done it, sometimes she would hear what sounded like her husband calling her name from the parking lot, or her son knocking on the back door saying that he needed to get in. But her husband knows not to come at night, and her son doesn't even live in this town anymore. Another time when she was on the night shift, it sounded like her cell phone was ringing in her pocket while she was in the middle of mopping. Out of habit, she absent-mindedly picked it up, But then a realization and dread filled her. Her phone is always on silent, so it couldn't have been ringing. She never made that mistake again. Anne apologized for not being clearer about the job details. She said that after seeing and doing this job for so many years, she took the little details for granted and didn't consider that a new person would know the little tidbits and tips that she had picked up from experience. I didn't accept her apology, and that last part seemed like an excuse. She and her husband deliberately left out these details on the job description. My mind flashed back to when I got the job, and I thought that it was odd that Anne's husband only phone interviewed me and didn't seem to want to meet in person before giving me the offer. At the time, I just chalked it up to desperation. I would have left and never come back if it weren't for my curiosity. I really wanted to know if all of this was real, or if I had the craziest mental trip in the world without having done any drugs. Anne told me she's had a few employees who stuck around over the 20 years that she and her husband owned the gas station. She usually tried to get town locals. They were acquainted with the strange supernatural occurrences around them. They don't happen to everyone, but some. However, as the residents grew older, and many of their children skipped town and moved elsewhere as soon as they could, I asked Anne why she and her husband don't just skip town and move elsewhere. Or why not just close the gas station before nightfall and avoid the whole night charades altogether? She said that she couldn't. Her husband inherited this gas station from his own father. It's an old town, and all of the original buildings experience odd events when they deviate too much from how they were 50 years ago. Because this gas station was originally a stay-open-late gas station for trucks that passed through town at night, something wanted it to stay that way. Her husband had younger siblings, but in order for them to be able to leave town and live normal lives, someone had to take the role of owning the family gas station, and it landed on him as the eldest. Once her husband did try to abandon and shut down the gas station, but misfortunes and near-death freak accidents started to happen around the family. When he reopened and restored the normal working hours of the gas station, it stopped. The big question you guys probably want to know is, how am I still here to type this report up to you? I have no memory whatsoever after hearing Fred speak into my ear in that storage room, and then I woke up lying face up in the employee break room. Light streamed from the front of the store, and I realized that it was daylight. Long story short, I didn't die that night in the gas station, but that's not the case for my predecessors in this job apparently. Anne says others have mysteriously disappeared during their shifts before, presumably because they made a mistake. Anne doesn't know if they died or if something else had happened to them. Anne and her husband reckon that it had let them off easy. It had let off another employee easy before, but it took his leg. Like it took his leg clean off. He technically lived through the encounter, but died from bleeding out in the middle of the night while blacked out. Obviously, both Anne and her husband have survived making mistakes more than once, probably because they inherited the gas station and they were needed to run it. I wasn't sure whether to believe them. I tried asking for the names of the previous employees, but Anne refused, citing privacies for the families affected. She can't stop me from Googling missing person reports though. I'm sure in such a small town, it would be all over the newspapers and town talk. However, I should tell you all that I didn't survive completely unscathed. The ear where I heard Fred speak was now deaf. Even though she was being somewhat uncooperative and a little sketchy, as she did look at me with concern when she realized that I became deaf in one ear as a result of working that shift. She divulged that the reason that she worked the night shift these past years was because her husband had gone completely blind. He had accidentally fallen asleep while working the night shift, and he woke up the next morning, shaken up by Anne. It was a bright and sunny day, but he asked her why the lights were still off. Anne herself was getting older, and she was worried that she would fall asleep one day too. She needed a replacement, and perhaps that's why I lived instead of suffering a mysterious disappearance. I'm not sure if that was truth or a threat. Next, I wanted to know who or what the heck Fred was. Anne shook her head and told me that it was a story for another day. Not now. You're tired from the shock. Go home and get rest. I refused and I asked her about Fred again, demanding my right to know what almost killed me. Shaking her head vigorously, she started to shoo me outside the door of the gas station, saying, I'll tell you another time. You can have the rest of the week off, but I need you back on Monday. What? Monday? This lady thinks that I'll come back. Before I could shove my way back inside the store, Anne quickly locked it to keep me from pestering her, and despite it still being opening hours. As she walked away and ignored me, I commented under my breath that Fred wouldn't like that she locked the door. Fine. Bewildered and my head swimming with more questions than answers, I turned to go back to my car and head home. I got my left ear checked by the doctor, and she told me the eardrum had blown out and was not repairable. I might recover slight hearing, but I wouldn't get full functionality back ever. Since then, I tried to apply to many different other local jobs after that because I was determined not to come back. There was no way I was ever coming back because that gas station is crazy and it's not worth dying over. But for some reason, whenever I visited businesses to apply to in person, I kept getting turned down immediately. They would say that I'm not fit for the job, despite being well qualified. They would say that the job was already taken or filled up, which made me skeptical. I mean, for a couple of those jobs, the opening was posted that day. I also pursued some job ads and sent an email with my resume, but almost right away I got multiple message not delivered, bounce back or errors that said the email recipient did not exist or was unreachable. Had I misspelled the email address somehow? I got a friend of mine from another city to apply to the same jobs and reply to the same emails, but his went through just fine. And then he tried to apply to things on my behalf using my resume, but he would get turned down right away, inexplicably. It didn't take long for me to put two and two together. Something wanted me to stay. The past few nights confirmed it. It started the first night the day after the gas station incident. My bedroom clock showed 10:30 p.m., and I was standing in front of my mirrored closet door. And that was when I saw it. A shadowy silhouette was barely visible through my opaque curtains. The edges weren't solid like a real person, backlit by the streetlights outside. It was blurred and the whole figure was almost see-through. It wasn't moving, but it was facing towards me. I froze. I live in a nearby small town. This was not the same town that Anne's gas station was in. Something followed me home. I froze too long because after 10 seconds, suddenly the light turned off in my room. You could hear a pin drop in the silence after that. I dared not turn around, and I felt the sensation of ice crawling across my scalp. I blinked and the silhouette was bigger, like it had gotten closer. If it had a face, it would be right up against my window. Against all of my senses screaming at me not to move, I forced my frozen muscles to jerk awake, and I ran into the bathroom connected to my bedroom, and I made a noisy show of washing my face, splashing water, and brushing my teeth as if I were getting ready for bed. In a frenzy, I knocked over my ceramic toothbrush holder and shattered it on the floor with a loud crack. Dread coursed through me, and I was afraid that I would die any second now. I hoped that I had made the right decision. However, death did not come for me. Not yet. As I noisily brushed my teeth and splashed water around in the sink, I gradually felt the sensation of icy dread leave me, but I kept up the charade for a few more minutes. Eventually, a sense of aloneness washed over me, and I wondered if the presence had left me alone. I cautiously used my phone camera to check the bedroom window. The figure was gone. I went to bed, but I did not sleep much that night. Ever since that first night, the figure has revisited me every night, watching me through the curtains. I thought about getting blacker curtains to completely block it out, but I feared not being able to see it approaching and being attacked unaware. So I decided against it, even if it was creepy and gave me a heart attack every night. I eventually figured out that if I went to bed and held still, as if asleep before 10 p.m., it would come check in on me and leave without incident. However, as the days grew closer to the coming Monday when I supposedly have to return to work at the gas station, I'd be getting in increasing amounts of bad luck every day. My car won't start, things oddly misplaced. I lost my keys and then found them, later thrown in some bushes. The last straw was when my apartment's front door suddenly stuck in an unlocked position, despite being in fine working condition. Remembering that the gas station's red sheet had said to deadbolt the door when being pursued by the shadowy figures, I didn't take any chances, and I bought a cheap deadbolt and affixed it to my door. I'm going to go back to the gas station on Monday for one shift. I want to get all this freaky stuff to stop. I haven't been eating well because of the constant crushing pressure of fear and anxiousness that something is going to happen to me any second now. If you have any suggestions, please let me know, or any suggestions on how to perform a Monday shift perfectly. I feel like there's too many things to keep track of, but I guess if Anne and her husband learned to do it nearly every night for years, I could too. Until then, I'm just reminding myself to act natural. Don't be afraid. I am a normal and good citizen. I will go back to work. A busy citizen is a good citizen.